In our discussion segment, the youth population represents a vital force for economic growth in any nation. About 70% of Africans are young people, and globally, over 50% are under 30 years of age. In Nigeria, 70.8% in Nigeria are under the age of 30, and empowering the demography is essential for sustainable growth. Now, to speak on how government economic reforms can empower youth in Nigeria is business development expert Kolawale Kainde. You're welcome to Business Express.
So it's a pleasure once again to be with you.
Now, by now you must, I mean, it's very obvious that the youth population is quite huge, but less productivity. And from your own business development perspective, what do you think should the country, I mean, should the government do to address some of the challenges that youth face today in in the country today?
Nigeria grapples with multidimensional poverty, and for Nigeria to get out of this, they have to use a multidimensional approach, and which is what the federal government has done. Since the administration of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came up, you see that there had been series of youth intervention programs that speaks to whole cadre of all classes of youths within the economy. And when I mean all classes, we could separate them based on their skill sets. Of course, you know from the statistic you just reeled out now, the median age of the Nigerian average, the median age in Nigeria is about 17, and you see that about 50% of our youthful population is about 50% of our population is below 30. What that tells you is that there is a need for the government to address unemployment in a strategic way, and that's what the government has done. I will reel out that for you. There are interventions that speak to the less skilled youths, which you could call the people.
How will be specific about those programs so that for our people watching? As in specific about the
like
programs.
the Nigerian Youth Academy speaks to development of digital skills, empowerment, and increasing access to world-class training. There's some other interventions like the National Social Intervention that speaks to basic skills, speaks to artisans and all of that. So you know that for people that's a little bit technological savvy, access to intervention programs such as the 3MTT, the the Nigerian Youth Academy, and of course, when you talk about the normal, the one that speaks to artisans, you talk about the super. So these are interventions that speaks to specific demography within that youth nomenclature.
So based on your assessment, these programs are currently running, and how much difference does it make?
You will agree that when you talk about skill development and human capacity development, it doesn't happen in an instance. And if I don't have the statistics of the number of enrollment, but let's look at the student loan. We know that a lot of more than 74 billion naira has been disbursed. What that means is that children, youths, and students that do not have access to tertiary education now have access to tertiary education. That's a big win for the Nigerian youths, and I think I should applaud the president for that. Now, talking about the 3MTT skills, that means we're looking at 3 million technical technical skills, and that's a lot of if you ask me. However, the federal government has not been able to train 3 million 3 million youths for those technical skills. But there is a growth within that space. I think the government has done close to 1 million of that. And like I mentioned, to digital skills, digital literacy is a really important avenue that we should look at. If you look at what philanthropists, business moguls like Bill Gates have mentioned, narrow down to the fact that AI is going to wipe away a lot of jobs.
Of course.
And that is happening every day. What do I mean? Typically before, if I want to design an Excel template, I need to get an an expert in Excel, but I can use ChatGPT to do that now. And our youths are technological savvy, and they're doing quite a lot. A major win is what is happening in the creative space. You see people, content creation, people leveraging AI to develop startups, and these are young people that naturally will be requesting money from their parents before, but now these guys are doing big things.
Looking at our population, would you say the kind of manpower planning we have, just like the ones you've mentioned, manpower development and planning and development, such as our schools and the programs that you've just mentioned, do you think they're actually enough to somehow skill up the population of youth we have in the country? And if not, where do you think we should, explore to actually get a lot of our youths on board, so that, just the way we look at China, we want to emulate them, let's also get to be on that conversation as well.
You just mentioned in your reportage that the federal government is looking at unlocking about 23 trillion naira from the pension fund. Well, that tells you that Nigeria does not have money, and we are using the lean resource we have to provide service at scale. We have barely scratched the surface, considering the number of youths that we have in our population. But this is a very good move, is a very good move in the right direction. There's a lot more to be done. The federal government is doing, but we also expect the state governments and other stakeholders to also join the fray. A lot of emphasis have always been directed towards the federal government. We give the state governments the opportunity to just squander monies that are given to them. So we need to also look at what the state governments are doing. And for the last time I checked, a lot of them are really not doing much.
Okay, a lot has been said about, when they talk about the youth population, they talk about out-of-school children. There's this school of thought that is pushing this particular narrative that skill acquisition, whether skill acquisition is actually the permanent solution to after school. I want to pick your thought on that.
Nigeria needs to unlock industrialization, and the quickest win is to develop skills. I'm not marketing my company now, but you know that we are trying to organize a vocational skill that infuses technology and business skills. This is what is lacking in the current curriculum that the government is running. A lot of youths are running away from technical skills because the approach to which they learn is still archaic. There's a need to infuse innovation, to infuse creativity, and that is what a lot of new businesses businesses that are involved in vocational skills and training are doing. One of the major challenges is the issue of regulation. Access to barrier of entry into that space is quite huge. Getting government regulations and ensuring that you comply to requirements are quite very difficult. So entry is a barrier, and government should look at how to streamline processes so that a lot of people can actually come into that space and offer a multi-dimensional vocational skill scheme that will make a lot of people, not only youths, even people that had a job, older people that need to re-enter the labor market. The one thing that we lack is we lack a robust skill development system, and if we're going to be like China, we don't focus like youth.
Is it just the system, or is it the issue of implementation? Because a lot has been talked about this issue, and it has always been on the paper, but when it comes to implementation, it's something different.
You're very right.
After you see a series of training, youth empowerment training, after everything you give the youth everything, there won't be anything like, okay, let's check to see whether these youths are actually using those skills. And in some cases, you find youths will now take those equipment, they sell them out there.
That's a good observation you've made.
I think we still need to, don't you think we still need to do more to make sure that, okay, after we've given them this training, make sure that they're actually doing well, paying, I mean, somehow contribute to their quota to society.
I quite agree with you, Musa, but if you have a faulty system, implementation will become challenging.
Who fixed the faulty system?
So
that's the question.
That's the idea. That we need to feel when you have a skill empowerment training, let's say for a smartphone skill empowerment training, and you do a smartphone skill empowerment training for just 2 days, you're just gifting the participants money, because that is, they definitely cannot acquire that skill in a long while. We have a quick fix mentality, which cannot develop, we cannot make us develop at scale. So we need to look at the programs, some areas you need to lengthen the programs, deepen the curriculum, and these are what we're saying. Fantastic, you can have things on paper, but when you talk about implementation and execution, you need to look at how deep this implementation and expectations are. You agree with me, there are a lot of skill empowerment programs that not the federal government, a lot of other stakeholders the stakeholders provide, but when you create a skill acquisition program that's just for 2 days, 3 days, and you expect them to become world class, I think that's a joke, and it's not going to happen.
Okay, Mr. Kolawole Kinde, before I let you go, the federal government is somehow driving reforms and a program to achieve a $1 trillion economy. Where do you see youths playing their role in this particular, futuristic economy?
The service industry has been growing in leaps and bounds. As well as the creative industry, and that is where I see that catalytic impact occurring. In terms of digital transformation, which you mentioned, that's the easiest way to ensure that we scale to a $1 trillion economy. Of course, that's a tall order, but I know that if the federal government and other stakeholders can really invest in youth development and create just like what the federal government has done, a youth bank and some other interventions, I'm sure that we can reach that. Somebody says there is no unreasonable goal, there's just unreasonable timelines. So it depends on where you want to see and where you want to put these issues at.
Okay, thank you very much, Kolawole Kinde. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.